Hi, my name is Alyxandra Harvey, and today I'll be reading from my book, The Secret Witch, which is the first book in the Witches of London trilogy. Breaking into a dead woman's house was easy work since they rarely complained. Breaking into a dead witch's house, however, was a different matter. Maura might get lucky and the house wards would break first. On the other hand, Mrs. Lawton's ghost might push her down the stairs. Maura hopped over the gap between the roofs and slid down the drain pipe to the parlor window on the north side of the building. It was customary to leave it open for the spirits to pass through. Maura didn't mind sharing with a ghost. She was used to sharing the rooftops with vampire pigeons, rats the size of hedgehogs, and Nigel the snorer. She left a muffin on the sill as an offering. Mrs. Lawton might have preferred wine or sweets, as many spirits did, but Maura only had one lemon drop candy left, and she wasn't about to give it up for a dead woman with no taste buds. She wiggled inside, grateful that poor girls like her didn't have to wear corsets. She crept forward to the dining room table. It was covered in a white sheet on which Mrs. Lawton lay in her best dress. She gently pried Mrs. Lawton's eyelids open. Her right eye was cloudy and vacant, her left perfectly clear and blue as cornflower petals. The glass eye of a blind witch, 3 days dead. She popped it loose, trying very hard not to hear the vile popping sound it made when it came free. She placed a coin over the eye socket as payment. It wasn't stealing if you paid for it. She hoped it would appease the ghost long enough for Maura to slip through the window. It wasn't enough. Mrs. Lawton's spirit sat straight up out of her body and screeched, "Thief! Thief in the house!" Ice skittered over the floorboards as she slammed into Maura, mouth opening wide to show rotted teeth. Her breath was toads and mushrooms and mildew. The ghost's hand closed around Maura's throat. Mrs. Lawton shouldn't have been able to do that, even as a recent ghost. There were wards in London. Binding spells, the order. Mrs. Lawton didn't seem to care for any of the fail-safes. And for a dead old lady, she packed quite a punch. Maura's feet felt branded, as if she didn't already know she needed to get out of here. Now. She was weak as boiled turnips. Her vision started to go gray and blotchy. Her familiar marmalade knocked the teapot over. Mrs. Lawton turned her phosphorescent head so quickly her head snapped. Marmalade batted the teapot as if it were a mouse. Mrs. Lawton's grip loosened. She ground her teeth so savagely one fell out and corporealized when it hit the ground. Marmalade flicked the teapot once more as it tumbled, and Mrs. Lawton lunged for it, momentarily forgetting Maura. Maura scooped up the dead woman's tooth and tucked it next to the glass eyeball before diving out the window. She scampered up the first drain pipe she found, and then she walked the ridge like a circus girl, and when she reached the edge she turned right, intending to go home. Pain gnawed at her, as if her boots were full of angry bees. She'd learned, even before Mrs. Lawton, that when the bottoms of her feet itched the way they did right now, she ignored them at her peril. It only receded when she kept moving, kept running, and only towards Mayfair of all places, all mansions and columns and balconies. They danced while overhead the magic wards they didn't even know protected them broke. Gargoyles of all shapes and sizes, all sneers and smiles, deserted their posts. A few crumbled to dust, but most, too many, launched off roof points and dormer windows and brain spouts. Maura had never seen anything like it. With the gargoyles gone, the rooftops weren't safe. London wasn't safe.